Hey, thanks for clicking on the video and listening to my opinion on topics I view very much. I've heard a bunch of other people's opinions on, but you for some reason value mine on it, and I'm very appreciative of that. If you want to continue giving to this channel, or just wanting to hear me talk about more things that involve college football or football in general, I'm going to be doing a live stream on January 1st where me and my friend Scotty are going to be reacting live and playing, at least I am playing a little drinking game with the game between Washington and Texas. So go on and check it out here on YouTube. We'll be live about 20 minutes before the game starts, and we'll be through it all the way through the game itself. So if you have time, come check it out. But other than that, enjoy the video. Welcome back to Weekly YouTube channel, or I should be renaming it to the Monthly Huddle YouTube channel with how inconsistently I've been posting as of recent. I do have to apologize, especially to all the new subscribers I seemingly get with every post I put out, which you would think incentivized me to try to stay on schedule a little bit more and make those posts weekly. But over the past month or so, ever since I made my last top 10 list, and in the time gaining 33 new subscribers, and really should be focusing on this, there was holidays, I had some family issues to deal with, and I had the end of my semester, so I'm just now getting back into different kind of things with football. I always kept my eye on the scene of it and really watched some games, but I wasn't really putting my mind towards creating content. And I thought that as a little fun video to get caught up on everything I missed, I'm going to go through, I'm going to do a recap of some of the stories that I've heard about and have opinions on that have floated up over the past month or so. So we're going to go through, I'm going to give my little opinion piece on some stuff, and just talk about some of the biggest storylines that happened in the month since I last posted. So without further ado, let's get to our first topic. Now, in that time I was off, I did get to watch my Washington Huskies beat the Oregon Ducks in the Pac-12 championship game and basically seal their position inside the college football playoffs. On that same day, Georgia lost to Alabama in their bowl game, or their championship bowl game. I guess this is a bowl game? No, not really. Just a championship game. And this kind of set onto emotion this real hectic Selection Sunday thing that we now have to discuss, because Florida State, the undefeated ACC champions, got snubbed for two one-loss teams, one of which won the Big Ten, Big 12? Big 12. The Big Ten championship, the Pac-12 championship champion are both in. They're both undefeated, Michigan and Washington. And the Big 12 champion in Texas, who beat Alabama, is 3. And Alabama, after beating Georgia and winning the SEC, is now at 4, with Florida State at 5 and Georgia at 6, who will then be playing each other. So that should be interesting. But the whole hoopla was about the fact that Florida State did not make it into the college football playoffs despite being an undefeated conference champion. And I just wanted to break down and look at the different points of view from why people thought that and what my actual personal opinion on it was. So first off, the reason people are kind of saying that Florida State should be in it is because obviously undefeated won the ACC. ACC is still a Power 5 conference. I don't remember what the statistic was specifically, but the fact that they were an undefeated Power 5 conference champion and not being in it was kind of a travesty, and that it was really, I think in the previous however many times it had never happened before that an undefeated conference champion had never been in it, but this is the first time in a while. And that this isn't fair to the kids who played for Florida State. Even though Jordan Travis got hurt, a bunch of the other kids contributed to winning those other 3 games he didn't play in, and that Florida State in general earned this opportunity even though their quarterback's out and even though they haven't been playing as good as when he was in, to go out there and try to win national championship because they were undefeated and because they played so hard to win the ACC. Now, on the opposite side is the people talking about how Jordan Travis was the catalyst for that offense, and ever since he went out, the offense hasn't looked the same, and that you wanted some entertaining football, and to see what happened last year with TCU getting blown out in the national championship game after beating Michigan in the semifinals, and that was with a fully healthy TCU as well. So, there's always those Cinderella teams, and people are really in defense of this, being the best 4 matchup you can do. And there's even some people saying, Georgia should be the ones that should be in it because they were number 1 all year, and 1 loss bumped them down to 6. So, there's a lot of different points of views that Florida State should have made it in because they achieved certain goals. However, they did lose an important piece with an injury, and that is kind of factored into the College Football Playoff Committee's decision-making choices, which they say all the time, and it's in their thing, that can impact it. Not just wins and losses, but how you win, major injuries, stuff like that can impact a selection. Now, my personal opinion on who should have made it in if Florida State got robbed or not. Now, personally, I have zero reason to not want Florida State in. When I am a Washington Huskies fan, as I've already laid out in this video, but this is My high school team is branded all around Florida State. Same colors, same logo, same chants, same everything. We are basically the high school version of Florida State when it comes to all that stuff. So I always had a impartial kind of love for them, and outside of Washington, they were usually like my number 2 team I would always root for, which didn't really work out for me because they haven't been really that great the past few years, but they kind of picked it up recently. And I do really like the players on Florida State, like Jared Verse, Jordan Wilson, or Johnny Wilson, wide receiver, Keon Coleman, and Jordan Travis are all guys I really liked. And I liked Jaheim Bell when he was at South Carolina, and now he moved over to Florida State. Florida State is basically my secondary team. However, I don't think they deserve to make it into the college football playoffs.
It's not fair to them. You know, they worked so hard for this, and they should still have the opportunity when Jordan Travis is out, and they still be, you know, have a chance to upset somebody and things like that.
I mean, yes, I understand that, but looking at it as I'm trying to remove myself emotionally because, like, I don't know any of the guys personally on that team. I'm not like their parents. I don't go to Florida State. I don't have any kind of ties to it. I just like it because my old high school looked good. So removing myself emotionally from those kind of elements and just looking at it as, one, a businessman, if I was going to be in that position for football, like what the CFP committee is, as well as just a viewer of college football who enjoys watching good football. Florida State not being in it is the perfect, objectively good decision. Like, last year, TCU had this magical Cinderella run. Even though they lost the game, they still got into the Final Four. People were excited to see what they could do. And they beat Michigan. They got to the finals, and everyone was so excited. And then they got blown out by Georgia, and it was an absolute travesty. Now, would Michigan have fared any better? Probably not, because they lost to TCU. And, I don't know, the Georgia team was just pretty stacked last year, not going to lie. We see that now in the NFL with how many of them are contributing there. But this Florida State team is very different than that TCU team, especially because they lost their starting quarterback. After the 3 games that Jordan Travis did not play in, really 2.5, because he didn't finish out the North Alabama game. In the 2 games, we'll just do the 2 games that he didn't play in because he was out the entire time. They had 134 and 55 total passing yards in both those games. Obviously, the offense was not performing nearly as well as when Jordan Travis was in there, and they were just going to give him the floor mop with them. And I think the biggest example of this is when you saw Michigan's players and them react when Alabama was picked as 4. How disappointed and mad they were, because you know what? Now they have to play a team that could potentially beat them in that first round. If it was going to be Michigan versus Florida State, Michigan would have had basically a bye into the championship. Now, that's basically people seeing that as a de facto championship game, because they think whoever wins that one is going to mop the floor to whoever wins between Washington and Texas. So it makes it more interesting. It makes it so that way all 4 teams could realistically win this whole thing. I'm still holding out hope for Washington. All right, I think it's kind of doubtful. But like Alabama, maybe I would have been more in favor of Georgia making it in than Alabama because they were 1 all year. But they are the SEC champions. They did beat Georgia head-to-head. So, I mean, it just makes sense to me personally. But now I think it's just way more interesting. We're going to have a lot more better games because of it. So I am on the side of Florida State being outside of top 4. I know that was a big discourse while I've been gone, so I wanted to give my words on that. Next topic, though, is going to be something that I think I'm very much in the minority of as opposed to the Florida State thing where it was kind of people really were trending towards what I was trying to say. So the Heisman, huh? I have to make an updated video on my quarterback rankings because I did one back in like October when we didn't know who was committing, who was not. I hadn't watched updated film on all these guys who were going to be coming out. And I now have new quarterbacks who are going to be on the list, quarterbacks that are coming back to college that I have to take off the list, and different opinions on players that I previously had graded certain ways. One of which was new Heisman Jaden Daniels. I did not see that coming. Like, all year, it was a conversation between Michael Penix, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams. There was all these kind of different pathways, but those were the usual suspects every time it was talked about. And Jaden Daniels started, lighting it up on fire in the second half of the season. Like, he really was putting together these big performances at Ole Miss, and I think Florida was another one. And he just really started making his case for it. And now, at the end of the year, he has numbers reflecting that of Joe Burrow's when LSU went undefeated, and they won a national championship. So he wins the Heisman. He was the most important or most valuable player in college football this year. And people are now throwing him into top 10s of their first-round mock drafts and stuff like that. So I have 2 points of view on this. One is as the voting for the Heisman goes, and one as it is for draft implications of Jaden Daniels. Because Jaden Daniels is one of those people that I watched updated film on. First off, talking about the Heisman. Jaden Daniels was really good this year. And those he was really kind of the example of dual threat quarterback in the NCAA. He really played well, and I think his numbers reflected that, and he was statistically good enough to win the Heisman. And I think the only knock you could have on Jaden Daniels was that they had 3 losses, and they weren't even in like the SEC championship game at all. And people will say, well, wins our quarterback stat, can't really hold that against him. Right, that's true, but wins and stuff like that, we can hold it against every other position as well. Like, you're not going to see, like, the best defender, like Will Anderson, when that was in Heisman conversations, but he was never, like, a favorite. And his teams went, like, almost damn near undefeated. Like, even teams that have good winning records, when they're not quarterbacks, they don't get the help out. But if a quarterback's go undefeated, they're automatically kind of talked about for, like, the Heisman, or even when you go to the NFL, like, MVP. Like, wins are intrinsically tied to quarterbacks, and that's what's going to be. Yes, it's not a quarterback stat, but it does help with their, like, storyline. So, you have guys like Michael Penix and Bo Nix who had much better winning seasons as a team. They helped their team to win more consistently, and were equal with Jaden Daniels when it comes to certain statistics. I didn't think that Jaden Daniels really was like the runaway favorite, but I do see how he could win it. I'm not really that upset about it. What gets my knickers in the twist, though, is Jaden Daniels being a top 10 quarterback in this upcoming draft class. And even some of my friends who I talk to with draft stuff and who have watched Jaden Daniels all 22 like I have, also have him as a first-round guy. Now, some of these friends also have Bo Nix as Drew Brees in the next... I have some weird friends. But the ones I have total respect for that have Jaden Daniels in the first round is... I just can't get there. If you saw my quarterback tier list, which is one of my best performing videos, I posted back in October, I had Jaden Daniels down with Joe Milton in the boomer bust category.
Our next quarterback is Jaden Daniels, LSU, transfer from Arizona State to LSU. He's going to be our first boomer bust quarterback. And where the boomer bust comes from is that Jaden Daniels is really struggling right now with progressions and reading through defenses. There's a lot of plays where he just locks onto his first read and then throws it, whether or not if he's open or not. If he doesn't throw it there, he either takes off or throws out of bounds. I feel like he's really behind the ball when it comes to reading through defenses, and he's kind of regressed in that as his college career is going on. I felt like last year LSU and this year LSU, Jaden Daniels is a little bit worse when it comes to progressing through defenses. Now, he does have an NFL level arm, nothing amazing or anything, like not like Cam Ward, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Caleb Williams, those top tier guys, which is why he's not in the top 10 potential. But I do think it's an NFL level arm. He can make NFL throws, and he is like the best pure athlete when it comes to the quarterback position in this draft class. Now, like I said, Caleb Williams is the best running quarterback. Jaden Daniels is the best runner who plays quarterback. He's the best when it comes to straight line speed. Him and Jordan Travis are kind of tied when it comes to elusiveness in the open field and using their legs to pick up yards on the side QB runs. I do think he has the ability to be like a Lamar Jackson light at the NFL level, but if it's all you can teach him the mental side of the game and fix that part that he's kind of lost throughout his college career. So that's why I have Jaden Daniels in boom or bust.
Just before I dive into my opinion how it changed, Jaden Daniels is going to get a film breakdown on this YouTube channel, and my next podcast is going to be an update to that quarterback rankings. So stay tuned for that. However, I'm going to spoil Jaden Daniels' part of that quarterback rankings right now. He is not moving from that boom or bust tier. That's the reason I did tiers. It wasn't ranking them by grade. It was ranking them by their potential and how I viewed them as quarterback prospects. Jaden Daniels, from his stuff in 2022 and then that one game from 2023 I watched against LSU or against Florida State, he was a round 5 quarterback for me. Like, I saw the athletic tools, but he struggled to read defenses. I wasn't really impressed by his arm talent at the time, and a bunch of other things that I eventually came around to as I watched more games in 2023. I watched 2 more games of the all 22, and a lot of stuff I was like, okay, I was a little harsh on him for those. But the one thing I have stayed consistently criticizing him on is the fact that he can't read a defense post-snap. There were so many times against Alabama, I believe it was Florida, where they ran post-snap coverage changes, especially Alabama, where they're really good disguising their coverages. And what's going to happen at the NFL level is defenses aren't just going to show you pre-snap what they're doing, even though he's not that great at reading pre-snap anyway. There were so many times watching players on the LSU offense be wide open in soft holes of zones that if he knew that's where a hole in the zone would be, he could get the ball to him there. Him not see that. Him sticking on reads that he thought would be open even though he didn't, without checking the coverage, he's just like, oh, that's my guy, I'm going to throw to him. I like that route. There's so many times where he's slow to get through his progressions, and I just can't get him to the first round. Like, I have him as a high round 2, but the fact that he can't progress into reading defenses continues to leave him at boom or bust for me, because he's going to be a boom if he can tie in the mental part of that with his athleticism and his arm talent, which I think is a little better than I first gave him credit for. But at the same time, if he can't read defenses, he's going to be no better than what Justin Fields is giving you right now. So that's why I have him as a top of round 2 guy. If I'm a GM and I need a quarterback, I'm going with Spencer Rattler over. I'm going Jaden Daniels, even though I have Jaden Daniels as a slightly higher grade. So that's my opinion on Jaden Daniels, the new Heisman, when it comes to a draft lens. And I think that's going to be it for right now. I'm getting kind of pulled short because I have to go do something, some adult stuff right now that I didn't anticipate having to do at the time of the recording. And I don't feel like having the continuity change of changing my shirt or pushing off recording this video any longer. So those are the two big storylines I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoy this. I'll be putting out more content, including the quarterback rankings, draft breakdowns of Joe Alt and Jaden Daniels, and other videos like that. Some takes I have about the NFL MVP. More videos are going to be coming out now that I'm on break from school and have a lot more free time. So stay looking out for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.